Peter Gray from the AU Review. Hello, George.
Hello.
Before I get to Furiosa, I just have to say, as someone who saw The Witches of Eastwick when I was very young, incredible film. Like, I think Jack Nicholson's performance in that is like immaculate.
Yes.
And I'm like someone who thinks Michelle Pfeiffer is like one of the greatest living actresses of our time.
Yeah, interesting.
And I sort of see like Charlize Theron almost as like a sort of a modern day version of Michelle Pfeiffer in the way that like she chooses her roles.
Yeah,
And like her
yeah,
beauty is always sort of what they see before her like, acting
Yeah,
ability.
that's true, yeah.
And I was wondering, like, when you were working with her on Fury Road, did you ever discuss the story of Furiosa with her?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah, big time. We were, in order to tell the story of in Fury Road, which happens basically over 3 days and 2 nights, very compressed, all the exposition, all the understanding and backstory had to be on the run. In order to make that coherent, we had to know everything about Furiosa and Max and everyone else, and not only the people, but the vehicles and the world and the way it worked, the human ecology of the place, the dynamics of it, the Immortan Joe, where it was. We had to know everything.
Yeah.
So we wrote basically 2 pieces. One was a screenplay on Furiosa with concept art, and we also did one on Max in the year before we encountered them, and everyone got that, including the cast.
Yeah.
And so, otherwise, I don't know how else we could have done that, because everyone has to kind of everyone has to have some sort of shared focus in order to and work to sort of organizing ideas that made it all cohesive. So that's how we came to do Furiosa.
Because when I was watching Fury Road, I realized, she says about it's been 7,000 days and the ones that I couldn't count. And then watching Furiosa, I was like, wow, this goes back to that, and like the character of like Valkyrie's back there as well. It was like incredible to watch those 2 films back to back the way that I did, and you just realize how cohesive it is as a story.
Yeah. So that's great. Yeah. It's I mean, as you saw, Furiosa butts directly into the Furiosa story.
Yeah.
Uninterrupted.
Yeah.
And so, but we know when they talk about Gastown in Fury Road, we see it from afar. They talk about Bullet Farm, and we see the people, the Bullet Farm, and everybody coming from Bullet Farm, but we never see it.
Yeah.
Now we know where it is and so on. So, and it's not I think to be able to tell stories about these worlds, it's obligatory to do it in that way. I can't imagine anybody doing it any other way, really.
Yeah. And obviously, I believe that there was possible, like, you didn't want to do de-aging when it came to Charlize Theron. Was there ever the possibility of this story being told with her, or did you always want to like always go younger and like choose another actress to play her?
Initially, initially I thought it'd be great to do it with Charlize.
Yeah.
But when we made Fury Road, has been well documented in a book. It was a very dysfunctional relationship with the studio Warner Brothers, and I subsequently went on to I made another film and so on. In the meantime, there's a third owner of Warner Brothers, parent company, from when we worked on Fury Road. There's 4 different regimes. So there's still some people who've been there for many years, and very key people. But the principles in the company are completely different. This is the 4th group, and also people who have completely different, a different complexion than we had on Fury Road, which was, they were going through a succession thing with at Warner Brothers at the time, and it got very dysfunctional, basically fear-driven, I think, and it was an adversary relationship. The film was made in spite of the interference from the studio, and so by the time that all sorted itself out and the dust settled, we also had a litigation against them because they breached our contract and things like that. That was all settled, and by that, pretty soon, best part of a decade's gone, and I did look at the idea of de-aging Charlize, because as you saw in this story, we go Furiosa from 10 to 28.
Yeah.
So it's 18 years effectively. And I did look at it, and we've seen examples, but and it's still not there as technology. And as I've said, you saw The Irishman, what Marty Scorsese did with that. You saw what Ang Lee did with Gemini Man, with Will Smith, young and old, and it's just not convincing. And if it does get to be convincing, you'll be saying, "Oh, look how well the technology." It's all about the technology, not the actual character.
Yeah.
So we had to find someone who could take on Furiosa and fill Charlize's boots, which are very difficult.
I mean, but then you get Anya Taylor-Joy, who, I mean, there was, I think it's like towards the end of the film when, like she's shaved her head, she's lost her arm, and we just hear her say, I need a vehicle. And that line, I was like, that sounds like that was so impeccably like Charlize Theron. Yeah. Did she have to work with like a dialect coach, or like did she? Anya. That was all Anya's decision.
I mean, these are great actors.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we didn't even have to discuss it.
Yeah.
She just, and it's only in retrospect that I realised she did it. People said, "Oh, that sounds a lot like it."
Yeah.
I mean, but no, that's just something she decided to do off her own bat. Yeah.
And then you get Chris Hemsworth in his like first Australian film.
Yeah.
I mean, his performance in this, did you always know you wanted him for this? Like, because I feel like we're seeing him in a completely new light as an actor in this. Like, obviously, prosthetics aside, just his performance is manic in the best way possible.
Yeah.
Like, was he someone that you always knew you wanted to work with, or that you saw him as, in this role?
No, because a decade ago when we wrote it, I didn't even think of casting it.
Yeah.
But I had the character in my mind, and I sort of knew what he needed to feel like and look. And we actually had concept drawings of him, but I couldn't think of anyone. By the time we decided to do them, I couldn't think of anybody. And Chris, because he lives in Australia, I knew of his work, of course.
Yeah.
And loved the quality he brings. But we met, and in that conversation, which wasn't much more than an hour, I really realised, hey, wait a moment, there's a lot more to Chris Hemsworth than meets the eye. The guy has got a tremendous, is multi-layered guy.
Yeah.
For someone so young, incredibly wise. I mean, and it's evident in what he says and the way he behaves. It's evident in his family. I got to know his parents, exceptional people. So suddenly I'm thinking, oh God, he'd be really. I love the way he approaches his work.
Yeah,
he's highly disciplined, very. Without going into what makes a great actor, by the way, it's great that you mentioned Jack Nicholson, because he's an actor who I learnt so much from, and a very wise man too. The best actors are very involved human beings, I find, in order to do it. Those that endure.
Yeah.
And anyway, with Chris, he read the script, and his response to the script, he saw things in it that I didn't even see myself, and that proved to be the case during the shooting.
Yeah.
He somehow discovered that character, and there was stuff that, I'm watching through the monitors, I'm saying, wait a minute, how the hell did he get to that? it was really interesting thing to experience.
Yeah.
And then by the time we got it to cut together, it was entirely, what he was able to achieve. So and the guy can do anything. He really can, and it's not in a glib way.
No, I mean it is
comes
kind
with
of
tremendous rigor.
It is kind of annoying that he's as attractive as he is and he's as funny as
Yeah,
Like, really?
people say that, but it's. I don't see him as attractive. I see him as dementous. I really do. Yeah.
But like speaking of like the things that you were surprised to see, like I understand in Fury Road, Guy Norris was sort of showing you some of the effects, and you were like, I don't know if this is going to be possible without CGI. Was there anything that he brought to Furiosa that surprised you when he sort of showed you how possible it can be?
So we for instance, that sequence where we have the mortar-flyers, so call those guys with their, parasails and hang gliders and things like that. I thought, gee, that's that's going to be very tricky. It's something we were going to do something similar in Fury Road. We'd actually storyboarded a sequence, but just a few brief moments in that story, and it just we didn't even shoot it because it was just didn't fit. We didn't have the time. You're always culling. But so that was a big that was something that in the preparation, which was very careful and meticulous, that you have to do, particularly with stunts, particularly with extended stunts. So there was that sequence. There was a lot. There was a lot where we had to get. We've got the actors involved in stunts that they had to do themselves. You can do it today if they're up for it, and you can do it safely. There was a lot. There always is, but if you go about it in a way that you prepare carefully and you can figure out how to do it, and that's you need to storyboard, you need to previs, and we had Guy and one of his sons, Harrison, invented or really pioneered a system of working with Unreal Engine to do really sophisticated previs with cameras and everything. It was custom built for this film. It was called Toy Box, and we played with that. So instead of doing storyboards, which are pretty static, there's no, you can do them in two dimensions, but you don't have the dimension of time. But now with previews, you can do it and be much more precise. So by the time you get to shoot, everybody knows what you're looking for within the shots. And that still gives you enough freedom to play with anything new that presents itself in the actual reality of shooting it. So,
No, I think, looking at this film, Fury Road, the Mad Max series in general, the other films you've made, like, it's just the eye for creativity, the eye for detail is something that is really just remarkable to watch every time I see one of your films. So just watching this is, it's crazy to think what is possible and what someone can create. So I just, hats off to you for everything that you've done with Australian cinema. So thank you so much.
Well, it's, again, it's really good when you work with really good people, and you basically find ways to communicate in a very, very collaborative way, and if that goes right through a crew, there were 1,000 people on the set with all the support. It's like an army, and all the stunt crews and whatever. By the time we got post-production and visual effects, there are closer to 3,000 people on that film. So there's got to be a way where you can make everybody working together in a way that where everybody knows what everyone else is doing.
Well, it's come together very nicely.
So you have to really do that. It's hard to do. And Australians are really good at it. Australians and New Zealanders are really good at it.
Yeah.
It's something in the ethos, in the culture, relaxed discipline, non-hierarchical, people not working in silos and with rigid orthodoxies, people sort of being open to new things, new ways of doing it, not being afraid of new technologies, but using the tools well. That's really important because it's always changing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so
thank you.
much.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.